Hey, Facebook chumps. Karen's off working on her script for Weenie Todd, which is a dog musical based off of the serial killer musical Sweeney Todd, but involves hot dogs. So I thought I would talk about what I've been writing. Rambling into Madness, which apparently is going to be published, but I just, for whatever reason, don't know if that's ever going to happen. But that's mostly me. Like, you shouldn't doubt, what the publishers and people are saying. Like, I got hope. It's just I got doubts, but those doubts are not rational. Anyways, what was I going to talk about?
So, can you describe the book?
Well, it'll be like a normal book, like with pages and stuff, and there'll be a cover, and there's like some interesting artwork and a barcode on the back of it and stuff, and there's words that form coherent sentences, and at the end of it you should have like a relatively decent idea of at least what my experience with like mental illness has been like at a period in my life. Like when I was giving like speeches to, well, I still do, but they don't ask me this anymore because they have no reason to. When I was giving speeches to NAMI or family to family classes at NAMI, people would always be like, "Chris, you gotta write a book," and I was like, "Okay, but we gotta be patient because like the book will come." It was like a baby that I didn't know when it was gonna come, or maybe like a thief in the night, like Jesus is supposed to come and like steal your book. Um, but it was like one day, unbeknownst to me, I stepped out onto my stoop and lit a cigarette, and I was proven right once again that like you should always carry a notebook and a pen with you, because I needed it, and when I started writing, I was like, holy crap, this is the book. And I think the underlying assumption from like at least me was that this theoretical book I was going to write at some time in the unknown future was going to be kind of like a theoretical, kind of practical, kind of like here's what you do when you're crazy, kind of book. And this was a story, and not you're kind of like here's like practical advice on how to help. And I wrote on the stoop and finished my cigarette and hustled inside, and Karen was all offended that I wasn't paying as much attention to her as I normally do, because I sat down and I just kept writing. And days later is like, holy crap, I've written several chapters of a book. And so
Is the book based in reality, in your experiences?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's so the book is I've always had like problems like, is it fiction or nonfiction, because it's like it is a fictionalized account of like a period of my life. Um, Mostly because I like in dealing with like the day to day aspect of schizoaffective disorder, especially like in terms of like dealing with things that I had like kind of recently gone through, is like I had to fictionalize it so that I could deal with it like psychologically. It like emotional distance was really helpful. And I think like if there's any value to the book, it's not in terms of like you should do this when like you experience psychosis, or here's like the top 10 things you can do to stop being crazy, if such a thing exists. It's more kind of like a here's the like humanity in insanity, which rhymes, so Karen gets a dime. Um, and because like there isn't necessarily a whole lot of like understanding or empathy at like a human level. It's like when people with mental illness are depicted in the media, it's either like they are the vile, kind of like psychopath killer, or they're like the savant genius, that like grasps mathematical concepts that like no one else can. and there doesn't seem to be any kind of like middle ground for like a dude that's just with his dog, who's just living day by day and has trouble going to the grocery store. And that's kind of the reality that I tried to capture, because that is the reality that I experience. Is like life is sometimes horrifying, maybe oftentimes horrifying, and like bad stuff happens to me, but largely it's oh, you're done with you're done working on your script. But largely it's like hanging out with my dog and going for walks and like doing my thing. It's surviving, and it's life. Like with the constant like threatening presence of psychosis or whatever, but it's also life. Just trying to live, right, Karen? You're looking like you want to get on my lap, so you want to hop up? The disembodied voice says you can't get you can't be in front of the camera, so you have to obey the disembodied voice. What does the disembodied voice have to say?
Karen, you're doing a good job of staying out of Chris's face.
Okay, because she's getting butt scratches.
Mm-hmm. It's very helpful.
Karen, do you have any suggestions for what the disembodied voice should have me talk about next?
I think she does. So what are you hoping for people to glean from reading your book?
That's a very good question for the disembodied voice to ask, Karen. And I hope you give the disembodied voice $5. I think it's not necessarily anything like super specific, as in like this is the lesson to learn. Maybe beyond like life goes on. Like one thing I've always like tried to consistently say is that life with a mental illness isn't a death sentence. Like it's not the end of hope. It's not the end of like a meaningful life. Like it's not so bad. Like it's serious, and like there's suffering, but there's so much more to it than that. And it's like it doesn't have to be the only defining characteristic of your life. So it's like beyond just the psychosis and the voices that happen. There's also like connections, and there's beautiful things that happen, and it's ultimately like not necessarily a story about like this a crazy person. It's a story about a person. That's fundamentally what I am as a person, and that's fundamentally like all anybody is as a person, including you, Karen. Right? You're pretty sure
I'm not a person.
You're pretty sure you're a dog, right? With all the rights and duties of a dog.
I'm a dog.
Yeah, that disembodied voice sounds pretty sure of itself that you're a dog, and also pretty sure of itself that it's you. Maybe we should get that voice to therapy.
Okay, bye Facebook.
Bye Facebook.